Hello, welcome back. We've been in a series out of the book of John on questions that Jesus asked. And so we come to chapter 21 today, the last of the questions that we're going to look at. It was after Easter. The dust had settled. The disciples had scattered in various places. A lot had happened, and they were trying to sort it all out. It seemed like it had been years since they had met in that upper room and shared that meal together, when Jesus washed their feet, and then when they went out to the garden to pray. A time when Judas would come and bring those who were going to arrest Jesus, and Simon would try to defend him and pull his sword, but the soldiers would take Jesus away anyway and arrest him, take him into the sea, and then the trial, or somewhat of a trial really, and then the beatings, and then ultimately the crucifixion. It seemed like it had been years since that happened. It also seemed like it had been years since the women came on that Sunday morning breathless to tell the story that the tomb was empty, and then how they began to realize that Jesus really was alive. They had a lot to process, and so the disciples went back to the Galilee area, and they huddled together, and they tried to make some sense out of the things that were happening. Peter knew what to do, one thing, and that is fish, and so that's what he returned to. They were fishing all night, but caught nothing. Then there was a voice. Someone was standing on the seashore. It was foggy and misty, a little too early to tell who it was. But the voice said, "Did you catch anything?" And they said, "No, not much." Really, that's sort of a fisherman way of saying of not wanting to admit that they didn't catch anything. And the voice said, "Drop your nets on the other side." And so they did, and when they did, the nets were so full, really to capacity, that they almost broke. Jesus, looking over on the shore, peering through that mist and fog, began to recognize who it is. And he said, "It's the Lord." Peter, who was such a good swimmer, jumped in and made his way. He was the first one to arrive. Jesus had fixed breakfast, and as they were together eating that breakfast, Jesus is going to ask the question that we're going to look at this morning. I think we can all sort of breathe a sigh of relief in this, because if Jesus came to Peter, one who was angry or who had the temperament that he did, impulsive and dogmatic, hardworking and opinionated, and more than that, the one who had failed, if he could come to him, then that also means he can come to us too. Peter had said, "I'll never leave you, Jesus." But then he turned around in a very short amount of time and even denied that he even knew him. Deep in his heart, Peter knew that he had failed. He had failed the purest and the best person that he had ever known. And the Bible says he went out and wept bitterly when that happened. The question that Jesus asked Peter now is a question that's going to turn him inside out. Despite all of his failures, Jesus took Peter aside and he whispered, so that no one could hear, I think, these questions. Despite all of our failures and all of our betrayals, the good news is that he also comes to us, just like he came to Peter, and pulls us aside and talks to us. Peter couldn't even look him in the eye. He had a lump in his throat, couldn't even speak. But Jesus spoke. And here's the question. "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" Their eyes met. The question was, "Do you love me? Do you love me more than these?" And Jesus asked that question over and over again. And Peter said, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. You see everything, you know everything. You recognize the truth when it's spoken. You know the facts, you know my name, you know my address, you know my family. You know all the details of my life. Lord, you know that I love you. You know that." Well, the third time he comes around, the response is different. He uses a different Greek word for know than he used in the first two times. This is more of a deep, intimate, below the surface kind of knowing. He said, "Lord, you know what's underneath. You know all of my cowardly denials that I've given about you. You really know what's inside." There is one who does know us inside, through and through, below the surface, and who still loves us. Well, Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep," or "Feed my lambs, feed my sheep." He said, "Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, and then feed my sheep." If you really love me, there's something that you need to do. I want you to start with the little ones. Feed my lambs. Supply whatever it is that they need. Give it to them. And then tend to my sheep. That's going to require a little bit more responsibility. Herd them, get them together, keep them well. And then he said, feed my sheep. This is going to be the hardest one of all. That included even those old sheep who were covered with cockleburs, who didn't want to listen to anything. They were hard-headed and rebellious. They all had needs. And so Jesus said, Peter, I want you to feed them all. I believe Jesus was really saying, Peter, James, Ann, Joe, Laura, let all of that love that is inside of you, my love, flow out to others. Start with the little ones, the children, but don't stop there. Feed my sheep until everyone, even the ornery and the difficult ones, the entire world is included in that. I want you to feed them all. Simon was a changed man because of that conversation on the seashore. He was strong and he was confident. He was authoritative. He spoke, and when he spoke, people listened. When he preached, thousands would come to know Jesus. It is said that even, and he became a key leader in the church, it was said that even when his shadow was present in people's lives, their lives were changed. The disciple who failed became the apostle who could be counted on. Do you love me? Do you love me more than these? That's the question that Jesus asked Peter. He also asked us. And my question for us is, are we the apostles, the disciples, the followers who can be counted on? Because if you love him, then you'll show it. We're not going to meet for the next couple of weeks. We're moving into the Christmas season pretty deep. So I will be back back in January when we start back. I don't know what the first date of that is, but we'll be back in January. But you can watch the devotions that we are doing as a staff, Monday through Friday. Each one of us is sharing something about Christmas and our traditions and the things that are important to us. And I hope you'll join us then. Have a great day, great week, and I look forward to seeing you next time.